Welcome to our philosophy video demonstration focusing on John Dewey. Group members include Alex Whatmore, Debra Pratt, Kennedy Fremlin, Laura Middleton, Semera Riccardi, and Meghan.
As the leading American philosopher for the first half of the early 20th century, his progressive thinking and education was built on the foundation of democratic and pragmatic approach and the use of problem solving, such as scientific method, social collaboration, and active learning. As suggested in Dewey's work, Experience and Education, progressive education relies on positive experiential learning to scaffold a student's learning specifically through the use of the scientific method. Dewey states that although traditional education involves experiences, they are often miseducative, meaning the value of education depends on the quality of the experience. According to Dinopoulou and Gasparotto, 2015, three main criteria of Dewey's experiential learning must be met: continuity, interaction, and reflection. The following is a quote from Kahn, 2011, highlighting Dewey's thoughts on progressive education and the importance of experiential learning.
To provide a practical example, a lesson plan for a grade 11 biology class was created. In relation to the curriculum, students investigate their prior knowledge of cellular respiration through experiential learning using the yeast balloon experiment.
Step 1. Teacher provides the lesson instructions. Students are placed in groups and given instructions for conducting the experiment. They are asked to connect their prior knowledge of cellular respiration to help guide their hypotheses and predictions. This engages students through the continuation of their learning. The teacher acts as a facilitator to their knowledge rather than a transmitter, reflected in Dewey's progressive education approach.
Today we're going to be doing an experiment that kind of builds off of our lesson we did yesterday. If you guys remember, we talked about cellular respiration. The experiment is going to involve water, yeast, sugar, a balloon, and then some other utensils to put it all together. So if you can all get into groups. Now that you're all in groups, here are the steps of this experiment. So I want you to, in your groups, take the piece of paper, roll it into like a funnel shape that can fit into the top of the water bottle. First, I want you to pour out about half of the water from the water bottle, and then use the funnel, stick it in the top of the water bottle, and then get your spoon and take first like around approximately a teaspoon of the yeast, pour it in, then approximately around the same of the sugar, pour it in, then quickly take your balloon, put it over the top of the water bottle, its opening, and then secure it with the rubber band. Once you guys have secured it, I want you to place it off to the side. Since this experiment and the reaction that's taking place will take around 5 to 15 minutes during that time, I want you all to hypothesize in your groups together what you think is going to happen to the balloon once the reaction starts occurring. Is it going to fill up? Is it going to deflate? Is nothing going to happen? Is the balloon just going to absolutely explode and pop? So now you guys can do it.
Step 2. Students are asked to hypothesize in groups. Dewey states that progressive education relies on creating and testing hypotheses. Furthermore, Dewey emphasizes the social nature of learning experienced in the community. Therefore, educational experience will not only affect the student, but also their surroundings by involving themselves in social collaboration.
Step 3. Students observe and test their hypotheses through interacting and conducting the experiment. Students continue to learn through active engagement and discussion with peers about the subject in a social context.
Okay, so I kind of think that nothing's going to happen.
Well, if we're thinking about our lesson yesterday that we talked about with the cellular respiration, shouldn't the yeast eat the sugar and cause the balloon to do something?
Yeah, then it'll emit carbon dioxide.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, you're right. And then it should expand.
Teachers facilitate student learning by utilizing positive reinforcement and prompting application of student knowledge in other circumstances as a form of reflection and formative evaluation. As discussed by Dinopoulou and Gasparotto in Dewey and Russo on experience-based science education, reflective thought completes the progressive education experience. It transforms the information into a full understanding.
Great job, guys. I see your experiment is going well. Now that you guys have kind of discussed cellular respiration, how it might connect to the balloon expanding, I want you guys to think and reflect on how this might be applicable to the real world.
In our demonstration, we applied Dewey's philosophy of progressive education through experiential learning by having students engage directly with the yeast balloon experiment.
The purpose was to provide a positive and authentic learning experience that deepens understanding of cellular respiration while fostering scientific inquiry skills. According to Dewey's progressive learning approach, learning happens best through doing and reflecting, so students not only remember the concept, but also develop transferable skills for future investigations. The potential consequences for learners include a stronger grasp of abstract processes, greater confidence in scientific reasoning, and an appreciation for how theory connects to the real world, all core goals of progressive education.
Some anticipated questions about our lesson might include, how could technology enhance this lesson? In which we could argue that a time-lapse recording could help students collect and analyze data more precisely, in addition to the use of Google Scholar for individual research collection to provide evidence for their experiment. We could also use videos to demonstrate concepts further. Another question could be, how could we assess learning during this activity? And I believe we could do this formatively by observing their group collaboration and asking them questions to encourage their critical thinking and reflection, as Dewey believed that learning is an ongoing part of a progressive education. To better understand how students engage with our assignment, it's important to note how Dewey's perspectives compare to the thoughts of other philosophers. For example, Locke and Dewey both believed that education should be grounded in experience. However, Locke viewed the mind as a blank slate, or tabula rasa, with knowledge developing through sensory experience grounded by reason, discipline, and moral instruction. Learning, for him, was a structured process aimed at cultivating rational thought and virtuous character, while Dewey, on the other hand, rejected that rigid framework, seeing as learning, in his eyes, was an active, social, and reflective process. He emphasized inquiry, experimentation, and collaboration, with the classroom functioning as a miniature society where students engage with real-world problems and learn through doing. A similar contrast appears when comparing Plato and Dewey. Plato emphasized aristocracy and the power of pure reason, envisioning a class-based society that limits individuality and overlooks the importance of action to gaining knowledge. Dewey, by contrast, viewed democracy as a scientific method, seeing observation, reflection, and testing as the best path to understanding. For him, genuine knowledge comes from doing, and education should prepare students to think critically, act intelligently, and participate fully in society. In both comparisons, the key idea is that meaningful learning emerges from experience. But while Locke and Plato focus on structure and reason, Dewey emphasizes interaction, inquiry, and practical application of knowledge. Therefore, our lesson demonstrates Dewey's perspective on progressive education as an active and reflective process, specifically how experiential learning doesn't just teach what students should know, but how they should come to know it.